What's up, guys? Today we have Jeff Sherman, who's the VP of Risk at the Superbook USA. He resides in Las Vegas, Nevada, but the reason that you guys might know him, the reason that we know him is from his Twitter account as well as his website, which is at Golf Odds and www.golfodds.com. So how you doing, Jeff?
Excellent. How you guys doing?
Doing well, doing well. How's things going in Las Vegas? I think you mentioned before this that you guys have been back into the office lately.
Yeah, it's slow. The casinos are yet to open. We haven't got the green light from the governor from that perspective yet, but we are able to take mobile wagers since that is social distancing. So we have a few of us going in there each day and getting content up on our wagering app at the Superbook and trying to do a lot with golf. We're doing mini tours, things like that, all the sports that we're not used to at this time, but getting back into the swing of things and start ramping up things shortly.
That's awesome.
It's pretty easy to social distance in that office. The 4 TVs behind you is sweet.
Well, this is my home here. So
Nice.
This is up in my loft, my work area that I can watch. When it gets to the Masters, I put all these on.
Oh, that's perfect.
That is awesome. So just kind of wanted to talk quickly about your career. I know that you studied economics undergrad and then got an MBA, but how did you really get into the risk management in the sports world?
Well, I started out at the Imperial Palace in the early 90s, and I worked with Jay Cornegay and Ed Salmons there. And I went off on my own to a couple of different places, but they really fostered learning new things and doing your own odds there. So I brought that to other places I was at. And when they went to the Las Vegas Hilton in 2004, I rejoined them.
Oh.
So we put our team back together. I just grew through the industry from a teller to a supervisor to a risk manager and learned the odds-making process. And I couldn't have been in a better environment, and we brought that approach to where we're currently at the Westgate.
Wow, that's kind of a crazy story that you started off as a teller, taking the bets, and now you're making the lines. That's an awesome story.
That's pretty much the evolution that everyone has done out here. Even Jay and Ed, they were tellers too. And you just work your way up the chain. You just don't jump right into risk management in this business.
That's awesome. That's really interesting to know. And then you said you specialize in obviously golf, but also NBA as well.
Yeah, I'm a big NBA fan. I grew up in LA following the Lakers in the 80s, 90s, 2000s. And so really follow the NBA closely. So, I'll make our NBA propositions and, alter the lines based on what perception is and things like that. But, we do season wins and we'll come up with our own numbers on things like that. So a lot of NBA, soccer too. I've been learning the soccer market since I went over to Europe around 2000 and really taking a liking to that. So trying to get as involved as I can in other areas.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys are working on Bundesliga right now, as that's one of the only sports that has come back.
Yeah, we've got the Bundesliga and Bundesliga 2 up, so we're trying to expand everywhere we can at what's going on in Europe at this time.
That's awesome. And then, what really goes into? I know a lot. Like, what really goes into making the odds? I know for a lot of the games, during the NBA season, it's a lot of using of algorithms and kind of seeing the output and then having some manual adjustments. But could you talk through that process and then maybe talk through a little bit? Obviously in very simple terms around what goes into making the props, as it sounds like that's even a more manual process.
Yeah, it's just having your power ratings. We'll have a few of us in a room that just kind of make a number on a game, just like we do with NFL. In the NFL, we release our lines for the following week at 4:30 p.m. Pacific on Sunday. Oh, wow. So we just put a few of us together, make the lines, and get them up and let people shape it that way. And it's the same thing with the NBA. We'll have power ratings on the teams, and based on whether they're home, away, neutral, whatever, we'll come up with a line, and we get a few opinions on that. And usually it's not too difficult to make NBA, NFL ones be within a range. But the proposition standpoint, when you're talking about points by a player, rebounds by a player, we have a little bit more variance in that because it's game and situation specific. So we'll get a lot of input in that and try to find an average price, which we think will be fair to split opinion.
And then obviously allow people to hammer it down to the real line, basically, as people bet on either side.
Yeah, we'll get a lot of sharp play early on, especially if you're off on what people perceive to be the right line. And, that'll get us to one where we'll take higher limits closer to the game, but then we'll have the public involved in betting into a line that's already been sharpened.
Totally. And then how much does, like, when you kind of learn and figure out what that price or what that number is, how much data and history goes into calculating that number?
Well, not too much history. I mean, it doesn't matter like what a team was a year or two ago. It's, pretty much what has happened in the last week and what people's perception is on what the environment is right now is what we really try to do. So things change rapidly and we have to make adjustments rather quickly, but it's more recently. And, you might see some history as far as propositions like a team's 3-point field goals made, and we have to go back and look at some longevity into that perspective if there's any consistency we can find. But generally in point spreads, and you see it with large fluctuations in the NFL, that from week to week you'll see an over adjustment just with what happened last week, because that's fresh in people's mind and that's how they're going to bet.
Totally makes sense. And then kind of moving that into the golf world, like what you just mentioned, it really is people's perception. So how much does a hot golfer really change their odds? For example, if Brooks goes out, maybe he's not the favorite, but in the top 5, and then he wins, he probably becomes the favorite for the next major. Is that kind of generally the trends you see?
Yeah, you're always finding the golfers or whoever's hot that people are looking to bet on, just so you have to control your liabilities. You don't want to put it up too high. So someone like him, especially with a big name, and if we use the example of Tiger, you're never going to find true odds on Tiger because the public is always betting him. So his odds are going to be generally half what he really should be based on what his golf performance is on the course. So we take all those things into account. And the one thing I'd look at doing, and the sharps generally do, is if somebody comes off a win, they're usually faded the next week by the sharps just because the price built in the next week is accommodating for what they just did and not what can happen next.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I remember, back in 2004, 2015, 2016, when Tiger was kind of going through some ups and downs. I remember even when he was hurt and hadn't played in months, he'd still be, 15-1, even though he hadn't swung at golf clubs, or 10-1. I just remember thinking, wow, this is crazy. So I totally know what you're saying there.
There were times when I got him as high as 100-1, but the way he was playing and with his injuries, he really should have been a 500-1 golfer based on performance in relation to the field. But we got plenty of support at him, and that's what you do, is you always get the Tiger support, whether he's 5-1 or 100-1, and you can't go too high.
Makes sense. And then are you allowed to bet golf outside of your, like, with other books?
Yeah, I can bet anywhere other than where I do the odds and where I work. It's legal to bet anywhere else in the state.
Now, one of the things, I've found betting golf, I'm an avid golfer, but betting golf just is such a difficult thing because, you have to pick the winner, right? Only one of the guys comes through. So, obviously sprinkling your bets, you're getting higher value if you do pick the winner. But what's generally your strategy when you do bet golf? Are you picking a couple guys? Are you picking 10 guys? Are you picking one guy? How do you usually do that?
Well, it really depends what tournament it is. On a week-to-week basis, I usually don't get involved in the outrights. I will in the majors because you have the time difference between them, and you can find a golfer that you think might get adjusted down during that time between the majors. But when I bet week-to-week, I bet matchups because then you find just one golfer needing to beat another golfer, and most of the public likes the outrights because of the large payoff. But for the long run, if you're looking at actually sustaining a positive revenue stream out of this, betting matchups weekly or even props weekly, you can bet a guy to finish top 5, top 10, yes, no. So things like that are more in your favor, you only need one option to happen, is a lot more beneficial.
Yep, and that probably makes sense why I lose money all the time. But one of the things I'm really excited about with the expansion of legal sportsbook, obviously for you being in Las Vegas, you've been able to have the amenities and be able to place bets, whenever you wanted to. But for us, I'm in New York, Checo's in Pennsylvania or Philadelphia, so he's able to now. But for years, you really didn't have many choices. If you did, it was probably not as reputable, or just not as many options. So it'll be great as it becomes more legal to have more of those options to bet on. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, there's no doubt. We'll be in Colorado shortly, and we're hoping to get New Jersey and other markets like that. So it'd be great to be able to bring our product to people. And, with us having something unique versus other books where we make our own numbers in-house, then it gives people an opportunity to shop around and find something that might suit them.
That's awesome. And then, moving over to the match is obviously this Sunday. I saw on your Twitter that you guys released some odds. So you have Phil and Tom plus 175 and Tiger and Peyton minus 200. Now, obviously you don't have to go into exactly what went into making those odds, but does the Tiger factor have something to do with that?
Well, when I first had a price set for that, I had Tiger and Manning $1.50 and Mickelson and Brady plus 130. But when they announced it was going to be at Medalist Golf Club, which is Tiger's home, I factored that in about 50 cents. So I brought when we actually opened the price, when we went back to open the mobile wagering app, I opened minus $2 and plus 175 just based on that perspective. And then I recently added 33 propositions where you can get involved all throughout. You can bet hole by hole. You can bet each team to win at a certain odds or the tie to happen. Such things in match play like a team to go up, go 3 up, go 4 up, go 5 up. So there's various ways to get involved in this, but from the main standpoint itself, it definitely had an effect for playing at Medalist Golf Club.
How do you factor in Tom and Peyton in the matchup? Obviously we have some limited data of them playing at Pebble, and maybe like you could potentially find their handicap somewhere. But how do you look at that?
Well, yeah, I saw Manning's a 6.4 handicap and Brady 8.1, so a small edge to Manning there. And more so, they're going to be involved in the back nine when it gets to modified alternate shot. In the front nine, the best ball, we have to pretty much assume it's going to be Tiger and Phil carrying the weight for their teams. But in the back nine, when the other players have to be involved, that's when I think it can be slightly more beneficial to the Tiger Manning side of it with the advantage. So we went from that angle. But the fun thing was I put up some propositions on the first hole for all 4 golfers having a price to land in to end up in the fairway. And the tough part was pricing Manning and Brady on that, which Manning I went pick 'em, and Brady a small favorite no on that based on their handicaps.
That's an awesome prop. That's an interesting one to look at. And then, my last question there is Checo and I have been, we've been trying to, think about who we're going to be taking. And one of our hypotheses is that Phil is just more built for these types of games in terms of like the match play. You always hear stories about Phil playing Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays for big money with other pros. Is there any weight to that strategy, or do you think that we're, for lack of a better word, full of shit?
No, I think that you're going to see some support for that side come closer to the match. And if you like that side, I would play it now because I think the price is going to go down. But then I think from a value standpoint, if it gets close to $1.50 or $1.60 on the Tiger side, where I originally had it before Medalist, I think other people might find value on that side based on him playing at Medalist. So
interesting.
I think at the price we're at right now, and we're already seeing some underdog support, I think it's going to go down a little bit over the next few days.
Mm-hmm. And, in this type of format, to get someone at that much plus money when it is, it is kind of a crapshoot, right? Like we don't exactly know how much these guys are playing. We don't know how the Tom and Peyton are going to factor in. So maybe, that's a little bit of a support for the underdog as well.
Yeah, and we saw it in the first match in 2018. It was priced similarly here in the $2 range, and Mickelson ended up winning it in extra holes. And that's another prop I put up is, will this one go to extra holes? So you can get 4-1 on that if you think there's going to be a repeat.
I just hope they play better than the last one. It was definitely an interesting one to watch. A little bit slow, I would say, in the previous one.
Well, Mickelson came out with like something the other day where he was like basically guaranteeing that it was going to be much better than their first match. He was like, Tiger and I were a little reserved the first time around, but this time I can guarantee that it's not going to be that way.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I think they'll be more comfortable in this setting too. And, one interesting thing is I just found out this morning that the 5th hole is going to be a 1-club challenge like they did in the skins game in Japan. So on the price for that hole, I had the tie a favorite. Now I had to change it to plus money on that because there's going to be a lot more variance playing with 1 club by each of the golfers.
That's going to be awesome. I'm really glad they're throwing that kind of stuff in there. It's going to be interesting to watch, but it can't make it. It's definitely harder for you to price it. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, we have to be on our toes on that. There might be some more information that comes out the next couple of days on some nuances like that I'll have to alter some prices for.
So now, let's say that information gets released to the public, where, hey, let's say all of a sudden number 9, they're only going to use their putters. Hypothetical, obviously. How are you hearing about that information, and how quickly are you able to price that in?
No, we're pretty responsive to it because it's available on Twitter.
Yep.
Once it breaks, you pretty much find it out there as long as you're finding the right people. And, I follow a lot of people in the golf community, which I can get that information like I did today. So I'm able to adjust before we get any wagers on it. Just like we're following Twitter for NFL injuries, NBA injuries, and generally we can get it slightly ahead of what the public does.
That's awesome. So, Checo, do you want to go through rapid-fire questions as we're running out of time here?
Yeah, absolutely. So just some questions, kind of pick your brain about some ideas in golf. So I guess number 1 would be favorite course you've ever played.
I haven't played too many, but I had the honor of playing Ballybunion in Ireland.
Oh.
And we actually got there the day that Michael Jordan was finishing up in 1998.
Really?
So I saw his round finish up. I went out there and played, and the unfortunate thing for me is I play so infrequently. I know I shot in triple digits. I lost 12 golf balls in the knee-high rough, so a lot of fescue there, and that was a challenging one for me, but it was a lot of fun playing that.
That's what a story.
Yeah,
I don't play that much golf. I haven't played many courses. And then you come out with Ballybunion after Jordan. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I got some
crazy.
good pictures of that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Best club in your bag. Do you prefer, are you better driver, better putter, better with irons?
Myself, I'm better with the putter. I can't drive it very well. I'm always in the rough, and the irons is tough for me too. I play so infrequently, just gauging the distances. But when I get on the putter, I can generally get it close enough. And I think the last round I played might have been in 2018 or 2017 when the Wynn Golf Club out here. Mm-hmm. And I parred 18 with a long putt. So I was proud of that because as infrequently as I play, I don't expect to get pars.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Favorite PGA Tour tournament or favorite golf event during the season? The PGA Tour season?
Well, for me, it's hands down the Masters. I mean, just the tradition of it, the course, the aesthetics, just how much it means to the golfers. And then we price up over 100 propositions. So it's a fun involvement from booking it, watching it, and then even betting it myself.
Definitely. And who's your favorite PGA Tour player?
Patrick Cantlay. That might surprise some people, but to me, he offers the most value in relation to the top golfers. We're finding him at 25 to 1 range. And I actually had a decent wager on him for the Memorial last year when he cashed that, so it bought us some new couches. So
nice.
We call them the Cantlay couches.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
All right, so that's the last of the rapid fire questions. Just one more before we go. Do your friends make you establish or ask you to establish odds on a lot of different things? Are they like, all right, we're gonna go play golf? What's the odds? Or with your handicap, what's the odds here? Do they have you do that kind of stuff or not really?
Yeah, more so than just golf. They do it on everything. I mean, who's going to chug a beer quicker, anything that we have. So
that's what I would be doing.
I would even get my wife involved, and she's making odds herself on some stuff.
That is awesome.
That's great.
All right, Jeff. Well, really appreciate you coming on today. This is super insightful, and we'll definitely be hopefully having you back on again as we get closer to some of the bigger tournaments to talk about not only the top guys but also some of the cool props that you guys are putting together at Superbook. So really appreciate it, and stay safe in Las Vegas.
All right, thanks, guys. You too.
Thanks, Jeff.